to celebrate ceremoniously the designation that's been given to this site. And this is really more for the benefit of members of the board, the members of the foundation, and yourselves as the public, because of what's happened since 2013, when this was just a vacant lot, and Juneteenth was being celebrated by putting a plant under some murals that were on this back wall here. So we've come a long ways from that point. And so today we're celebrating a milestone in that activity. And what I would like to do is ask those of you who are here in the audience to stand, and I want to ask our board members of the foundation to stand, and they are going to lead us, the ones who are here, in a Pledge of Allegiance, because as you see, we have the American flag, and these flags are very symbolic and representative of what we do here, because it was in the name of freedom that such risks were taken. And so they don't have a microphone, and I will get us started, and we can all do this together. Let us begin. Pledge allegiance. Thank you very much. We have to get those accolades in. Now, if you are standing a little bit longer, we know everybody doesn't know words, but we want to at least attempt a part of a stanza to lift every voice and sing, because lift every voice and sing is identified as the Negro National Anthem, and the words are so important to what we celebrate here today and why we celebrate. And so, I don't know if we have any great a cappella singers in the audience, but we will lift our voices and begin to do this. Let us, oh, we do have them right here. We have singers, all right. So let us sing. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven rings with the harmony of liberty. Rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. We're going to quit there while everybody's ahead. All right? Thank you very much. You may be seated. And so, beneath these windy skies, we have a number of awards that are going to be passed out here today. And as you will notice, as you look at the bricks, you see names and you see people are still purchasing bricks, and they're done in remembrance of individuals. This is a part of the whole legacy that's being built here, and it's not completed. You will notice also that we are so fortunate. We were here back in October to dedicate the Freedom Bell, and we understand the significance of that bell, which has been over at Great Falls for so long. So this is a very important corner that we have over here. And one of the things we wanted to do at this point, Dolores and the board are really big on appreciating people who put in efforts to make this happen. And you know, we go way back to the beginning when the truck was parked over there and there was no gate, and there was snow covering this statue, and it was being unloaded as it came in from Colorado, where it was done by the sculpture. And so we were excited to have all of that happen. So what we want to do today is have some acknowledgments. We do have a few remarks that are going to be made, but this is more of an award ceremony, recognizing people who have done a lot to make this happen and to continue to build upon this. My voice will probably be the longest one you hear, and you can talk about me while I'm on my way to my plane, and it'll be okay. All right. So I would like to first by saying we always acknowledge our dear Congressman Pascal. He's not here today, but we know that he's been through this whole thing over these past 20-something years. He's been right there for everything. So we always include him. And that's a big thing. But we also have the Honorable Mayor of Paterson here, he's gonna take his award, thank us, and then we're gonna keep going. See, I was a politician in another life, so I know how to handle that. All right. Okay. Okay. Hold that up so everybody can see it. There you go. See? One more for the collection. All right. Thank you so much. Who said it couldn't be done, right? I know. I joined politicians when I was 30 years ago, so I'm still intrigued. Okay, so we're going next we have the president of the Paterson City Council, Council President. You want to accept it for? You can accept it. Okay. She's number 2, so we can do that for her. All right.
Just keep me away from the mic.
This can take you. Where's you? Did you have the award for the president of the city council?
I'll share this with her.
Okay. Thank you. All right. And next we have the mayor of the city of Perez. And I'm not sure whether or not he's here. Huntoon-Van Rensalier, he's a part of the mayor's staff, and he's going to accept the award. He's also here with you. Okay. Thank you. All right. And then we have, this is the guy that's the hearts. This is the man that's made everything happen. All right. He's the Hercules of this whole event. Tony Perez, where is he? Tony Perez. He's been the guardian, the keeper of the flame. Come on up. No, you can't get away with being back there. Okay. Tony is quiet and low-key, but all of you know he's the man that really made it all happen, right? He's the man. So, there you go. Step right up. All right. Tony, you accept it.
I broke the rules last day.
Mayor? Yeah, we'll talk about that. Thank you very much. It's been an honor to be involved, and I look forward to many more years of curating and being involved here. This is such a historic site. I often, when I get an opportunity to say it, I say it. We are who we are because of what happened here. That's very, very deep in terms of what it means. Ponder that for me. But I am extremely excited about being part of this. I will continue to be part of it as long as you allow me to. Thank you very much.
Now, in the interest of everyone's job security, I'm going to break a rule and ask the mayor to come up and say a few words. Okay. Just wouldn't be right, you know. He really wants to. All right.
3 minutes.
Didn't you see how reluctant I was to come up and speak? Of course. You should time me, though. City council members usually have 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Yes. Good afternoon, Paterson. First, I want to thank Dolores, Ron, all those who presented this to me. History is my passion. I was a history major at Seton Hall University, and I'm so glad that Paterson has such a rich history and that we played a prominent role in the Underground Railroad movement. And I always like to point out that it was neither underground nor was it a railroad. However, it was just 2 men here in Paterson that cared about human beings. And in the interest of humanitarianism, made sure that Mr. Huntoon and Mr. Van Rensalier came together, African American man, white man, and made sure that people had a way to freedom, a path, I should say, to freedom. And here in Paterson, we celebrate Juneteenth proudly. A couple of years ago, I issued an executive order and declared a holiday, and we have a whole host of Juneteenth activities that I want to extend an invitation to everyone to attend. On Saturday, we'll be ringing the Freedom Bell here. Tomorrow, we're raising the Juneteenth flag at City Hall at 12 o'clock. And we have our African Heritage Parade on Saturday as well, immediately after the event here at the Underground Railroad site. So I think my 2 minutes are up. I graciously accept this award, and thank you for celebrating American history here on hallowed ground.
Remember, never run for office against that guy. All right. One of the things is we have two generations here today. The generation of Dolores and Ron and Eric, their generation, but now the children are stepping forward to take their rightful place on the board and with the foundation and continuation of the legacy. And so the whole idea of the Underground Railroad Network, which the National Park Service oversees, encompasses some 695 locations throughout the country in 39 states, Washington, D.C., and the Virgin Islands. And so a lot of people were involved in terms of the movement. And this is just one of those sites here. Matter of fact, we understand that Frederick Douglass stayed at the home here on one occasion as he was fleeing north because of the pressure that was out to get him. And the people of Paterson, you can be so proud because there's so much history here. And this place just adds to the history of Paterson. Because as some of you might know, it was here in Paterson that Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton held a great meeting at Great Falls that led to the political parties we have today. They just don't want to say that. And so what we want to do now is I'd like to call upon a young lady who is going to bring some remarks. We refer to her as Amy DeAndrea, and she's going to bring some remarks where on the program you might see the name of Robin Kravitz. And Robin was the person with the National Park Service that shepherded and did so much of the work on this project, but she did it in conjunction with the help of people that are going to be mentioned, like in Amy's remarks, and with Jimmy Richardson. So Amy is going to come and give you some remarks, and then we're going to get on track. But we want to include as much of this as we can. Amy? Oh, okay. All right.
Hello. Good afternoon. I'm Amy Lenander. I'm the great-great-great-granddaughter of Josiah Huntoon. And I'm here today to share some words that are not my own, but that Flavia Elia wrote. So she's a professor emerita at Ramapo College of New Jersey. Flavia was instrumental in the research of this site, going back decades. When I first met her in the 90s, she co-authored Bridge Street to Freedom with Dolores Van Rensalier, and more recently was instrumental in the application to recognize the site officially. So she's unable to be here, but the following are some excerpts of what she wanted to share with all of you. Just some thoughts on the site. We celebrate today not because we've learned what we didn't know, but because what we knew, what some of us have always known, what was and always has been remembered and passed on and treasured among some of us, has now become credible to an ever-widening circle of believers in the realm called documented national history. We celebrate because one of the rules of such history is that because it is shared, this deeper, wider, more granular knowledge is bound to become not only more credible, but more granular every day. And it is the challenge of those history tellers still to come to make it so, and to change the way this history is told. Because it will. Because the history we know now tells us so much more than we ever knew, and tells it differently from anything we've been told. It also tells us what more there is still to know. And I want to know it, don't you? I want to know what it felt like in those times, not just in the country, but in this city, in those families, perhaps some of them politically divided, not unlike the community itself, some hostile and full of meanness and mistrust, as well as some full of goodness and humanity and fellowship. I want to go back and reread the Fugitive Slave Law of 1850. Please, if you come away from this with any impulse to action today, let it be for you to do the same, to reread the content of the Fugitive Slave Law again and again. I want to understand what that law meant to fugitives, but also what it meant to those whose essential humanity was challenged to action by that cruelty and meanness, to perform almost unimaginable acts of human kindness and of love. I want to know more about those who did this kind of caring, and not just the men who are immortalized here, though they are great and deserve it. I want to know about the women, the Sarah and Ada Huntoons, the wives and mothers and daughters and housekeepers whose job past the entrance gate was to take fugitives into their decorous and Victorian homes and bathe and feed and shelter them, to protect them. It may be easier to imagine now than it has been in years, this civil war, because it was a war of what we call civilians as well as soldiers, a war played out not just on the battlefields, but in the streets and in the neighborhoods we stand in now. So let's imagine back to that other divided country, when not everyone, even in Paterson, saw the higher justice in the illegal activism being performed right here on the ground we stand on now, and all over this city. It took many acts of inspired inspiration, a capacity to dream that dream of higher justice we all aspire to live that story, but also to tell it and keep on telling it. We are doing that now, and that is the journey we have just begun, here and now. Now it is on the imaginers of the future to keep it going, to keep telling it better and better, till we get it right. Thank you.
A website has gone up for the Underground Railroad Foundation, and Flavia's entire remarks will be made available on that website. This is a very powerful speech, and there's a lot more to it, so we'll be doing that. At this time, we have on the program some Underground Railroad site staff appreciations. What I'm going to do is call the names of the individuals. They might be here, they might not, but the actual awards are going to be presented at the dinner a little later this evening when we leave from here. And so, but we do want people to know. And this is important because Dolores was kind of hands on the ground with all of this. She was there as they were putting bricks down. She was there as they were landscaping and gardening and all of these things that had to be done. And she has a very special appreciation for working with people who are hands-on. As a matter of fact, in Los Angeles, California, where Dolores oversaw a senior program, she's responsible for the creation of a rose garden, which is on the same list as the White House Rose Garden to this day. And flowers were put there in a community where people said nothing would grow. But in the deed, it is being maintained and kept up. So she's got this recognition going on both coasts at this point. So I'd like to call the names of these individuals. If you're here, have you stand, and we're going to follow up. First, Mr. Tom Smith, and then Mr. Arthur Lowry, and then Kiana Fortune, Elvis Durham, Victor. Elvis Durham here? All right. Thank you. Let's give him a hand. Still working in sight. Okay. Victor Marte, Elisa Gonzalez, Yemini Acosta, Mark Ardis, and Fran Campuanato. Okay, all of these individuals will receive their awards, whether they're at the dinner or later, and the persons put a special hand in stand over there by it, that covering that's on it lifts off very easily. Dolores is going to be able to lift it. When we adjourn, we invite everyone to come up and receive this stamp. Remember, there's 695 such designated places in the country, and now we are among that list here. So this is indeed a great honor for Paterson, all right? So this is where, don't jump on the floor, everyone be careful. All right. Get cozy for this great picture. Can't hear you, Dolores. I didn't hear. This is a copy of the certificate. It's going to be made available at the community college. The community college is the official archive for the Underground Railroad. And it is also the place where Dolores gave the proceeds from her book. Much of the proceeds from the book go to the college to help continue. And so this is a copy of that plaque, and this will be hanging with the other outstanding things that Dr. Rose has at the college. All right? Thank you. You all watch your steps back there. I don't want anyone to trip. The lawyer in me is always afraid of possible litigation. That's why I do. Okay. Now, at this time, I'm going to invite up to the podium another one of the great granddaughters. This one is LaTanya West, who is a member of the foundation board now. And we're glad to have her come up, and she's going to speak, and then we're going to hear from the board members. And let me just say, while we're preparing to do that, this is the board behind us, but we also have a very outstanding board member emeritus with us, all right? And so we are just so excited. Sister Irma, I don't know why you're looking all over the place. Why don't you stand up? She's one of our first board members, and now she's board member emeritus, so she will always and forever be a part of what we're doing. So we thank you so much. All right. At this time, I'd like to call LaTanya West, who's one of our trustees.
Good afternoon. As you heard, I'm LaTanya West. I'm the great-great-granddaughter of William Van Rensalier. The house is gone now. But in 1983, the rumored Underground Railroad site's walls had been torn down by the city, making room for a planned parking lot. In 1984, just a year later, my mother, Dolores Van Rensalier, had discovered on a trip to Paterson her maternal great-grandfather was an historic Underground Railroad conductor. Her DNA, 6 years before, had been documented. She was 44.3% African. She documented that her maternal black great-grandfather worked for abolitionist Josiah Huntoon in a spice mill. She knew from her mother that he was William Van Rensalier was Paterson's first black engineer. And to her great pride, now she knew he was an Underground Railroad conductor. Like all conductors historically on the Underground Railroad, he risked his life, leading many fugitive slaves to Huntoon's home cellar. She deeply longed to hug those walls. I remember her saying that many times. She deeply wanted to hug those walls that stood guarding her proud lost heritage. But she didn't know, as she rented that car in 1984 and headed towards Bridge Street, that historic Underground Railroad house was gone. All that remained was a barren, vacant lot. And I vividly recall just the decades-long journey that my mother embarked upon so many years ago, from the time I was a young teenager. And it has inspired me, just her passion for truth and her dedication to the legacy of this site, and share it not just with Paterson, but also the state and now the country, and hopefully all over the world. So I'd like to share with you an excerpt from her book, Bridge Street to Freedom, just to give you a sense of how she felt all those years ago as she drove here and discovered the once vacant lot. In the dawn of that morning, she wrote, I stared in disbelief as I stood on the barren, vacant lot that had buried my proud Black history. The emotional pain of this double loss brought me to my knees. But as I knelt there, overwhelmed, the mystic aura of this vacant lot slowly began to fill me with deep peace and profound inspiration. Beneath my very feet here was once a cellar where fugitive slaves actually hid. I knew, she wrote, I was kneeling on sacred ground. As never before, I heard the echoed words of the Star-Spangled Banner, but I didn't need the vision of bombs bursting or the battered flag still flying after a long night's battle of freedom. In the twilight of the morning, I could clearly sense all around me the sacrifices made here for liberty. The hushed valor was everywhere. In the buried cellars under me, long secret battles had been fought and won against slavery, against racism, against oppression. The courageous spirit of the brave fugitive slaves with my Black great-grandfather, his lantern leading them, his lantern, the light of his legacy, deeply humbled me. It was all here, together in constant danger with Josiah Huntoon and William-Van Rensalier, made this historic corner of America truly free. Right here, where I was kneeling, was the land of the free and the home of the brave. Huntoon and Van Rensalier, white and Black together, left their mighty legacy. Both showed each of us how to summon the courageous moral character within all of us. Dolores Van Rensalier, Bridge Street to Freedom. Thank you.